She didn't raise her voice, she didn't slam a door. She simply read the message, felt that familiar pull to explain herself, and for the first time in her life, she did nothing. And that nothing was not easy. It was painful, because for years her reflex had been to soften, soothe, clarify, and earn safety through words. Silence felt like danger. A boundary felt like selfishness. Not responding felt like she was becoming someone she promised she would never be. Inside her, the old habit pleaded for one more paragraph, one more reassurance, one more attempt to keep everyone comfortable. But another part of her, quieter and more honest, refused to betray itself again. That is the internal struggle most people never see. The moment you stop people-pleasing, you do not feel powerful at first, you feel exposed. This is what spiritual maturity often looks like in real life. Not dramatic, not cruel, just unavailable to the old pattern. And here's the strange question most people have never asked. What if the final test is not how much you can endure, but how much you are willing to disappoint in order to stay true to yourself? Maturity does not make a woman harsher, it makes her clearer. In Jung's terms, this is individuation, the slow and sacred process of becoming whole. Individuation asks you to separate from the version of yourself that survived by being agreeable, useful, and endlessly understanding. It asks you to stop living by borrowed rules. The rules that taught you love must be earned through self-abandonment. And that is why it hurts. Because you are not just changing your behavior, you are withdrawing your identity from the role you played to belong. You begin to sense what your spirit can live with and what it can no longer digest. You stop confusing endurance with devotion. You stop shrinking your needs into something smaller so other people can stay comfortable. And the more conscious you become, the more undeniable it gets. Some spaces only feel peaceful when you make yourself smaller. Some relationships only work when you overfunction, over-explain, and over-forgive. This is why spiritually mature women start to seem different. Not because they became cold, but because their body stopped cooperating with the old script. The old script said, keep the peace, smooth the tension, be the bigger person, give one more chance. Individuation whispers something else. Tell the truth, even if your voice shakes. Let the discomfort belong where it belongs. Choose yourself without making it a war. Here's a 20-second check-in you can do today, because your body often knows before your mind argues. After you interact with someone, ask yourself, do I feel lighter or heavier? Notice your body. Did your chest tighten? Did your mind start racing with what you should say next? Did your energy drop like a dimmed light? If yes, that is not a weakness. That is information. It is your inner immune system signaling, this costs me. And the first thing mature women stop tolerating is not a person. It is the kind of contact that quietly steals their life force. It rarely starts with someone screaming at you. It starts with a conversation that looks normal, yet leaves you strangely emptied out afterward, like someone quietly opened a window in your chest and let your warmth leak out without asking. This is the energy drain mature women stop excusing. Not because they become less loving, but because they become more honest about cost. Many women over 35 were trained to treat exhaustion as proof of goodness. Be the one who understands. Be the one who can listen longer, forgive faster, and carry more. And because you are capable, people begin to use your capability as a place to put what they refuse to face in themselves. Jung would call this an unconscious boundary crossing, not always malicious, often automatic. Someone feels discomfort, and instead of holding it, they hand it to you through tone, story, urgency, and expectation. You become the emotional container without ever agreeing to the job. You can feel it in everyday scenes you used to brush off. A friend calls and never really checks in on you. She pours out her panic, ends with, "I feel so much better now," and you sit there staring at the wall, suddenly tired. A relative corners you at a family gathering and unloads in the kitchen, speaking fast, asking for just 1 minute, as if your time belongs to them. Or a partner walks into the room with a heavy silence, not naming anything, but filling the house with pressure, and you find yourself scanning his face, editing your words, shrinking your needs to keep the air calm. Nothing bad technically happened, which is why it is easy to excuse. Yet you feel tense, foggy, or drained, and you tell yourself, "I'm being too sensitive. I shouldn't make a big deal out of this. I don't want to seem cold." Maturity is when you stop calling your inner alarm a flaw. You recognize the pattern. Your body is paying for other people's unprocessed emotions. Your nervous system becomes the place where their stress, resentment, or chaos goes to land. And the older you get, the more obvious it becomes that this is not kindness. It is a leakage. This is where the doorway rule changes everything. Before you reply, before you answer the call, before you agree to just a quick talk, pause at the doorway and ask one simple question. Do I have energy for this right now? Not only do I have time, not will they be upset. Energy. Because time can be stolen politely, but energy is your life force. It is your sleep, your peace, your patience, your health. If the answer is no, the next step is not guilt. It is clarity. Sometimes clarity is one clean sentence, spoken gently but firmly. I can't hold this today. I can talk later. Notice what that sentence does. It does not attack. It does not debate their feelings. It simply places your capacity back where it belongs, in your hands. A mature woman does not have to prove she is loving by collapsing her own boundaries. And if you already absorbed it, if the conversation happened and you feel the residue in your chest or shoulders, do a quick reset before you carry it into the rest of your day. Breathe slowly for 60 seconds. Inhale like you are calling yourself back. Exhale like you are returning what is not yours. Then name it plainly. What is mine, and what did I absorb? Mine might be disappointment or the wish to be seen. Absorbed might be their panic, their anger, their urgency. 1 minute of honesty can save you hours of rumination. Here is the painful part, and also the proof that you are changing. When you stop giving people unlimited access to your energy, some will push back. They may guilt you, escalate, or act as if your boundary is an emergency. That reaction is not evidence that you did something wrong. It is evidence that the old dynamic depended on your quiet self-abandonment. Energy boundaries are not selfishness. They are psychologically mature. They are the inner immune system Jung wrote about, the signal that you are individuating, becoming more loyal to what is true inside you than to what keeps others comfortable. Your life force is not a public utility. Protecting it is not a personality change. It is a return to yourself. Some conflicts do not start because something is truly urgent. They start because urgency is the only way certain people know how to feel close. This is the second painful thing spiritually mature women stop tolerating when drama becomes someone's love language. They do not connect through honesty, steadiness, or simple affection. They connect through intensity. A crisis text at 11:47 p.m., a sudden accusation that flips the whole evening, a shaky, "we need to talk right now," that ignores your sleep, your workday, your children, and your body. The emotional volume rises, and you are expected to rise with it, because if you stay calm, they feel abandoned. So they provoke, they press, they guilt. They call it passion or sensitivity or "I just care so much." But spiritually mature women recognize something sobering. Constant turbulence is not intimacy. It is controlled with a romantic mask. You see it in real life in patterns that look different on the surface, but feel identical in your nervous system. A partner who picks a fight the moment you finally relax, right when you put your phone down, right when you sit with a cup of tea, right when you get into bed. A friend who cannot check in without turning it into a storm, who only feels loved when you drop everything and prove it. A family member who uses guilt as a rope, making every boundary sound like betrayal. After all I've done. So I guess you don't care. If you loved me, you would. The content changes, but the structure stays the same. They create emotional emergency, then demand your emotional labor as proof of loyalty. Jung would say a pattern like this is often driven by a complex unconscious knot of fear, shame, and unmet need that hunts for fuel. And if you keep feeding it, the cycle repeats with different details. 1 month, it is money. The next month, it is your tone. The next month, it will be someone you looked at in a grocery store. The The storyline changes, but the feeling is familiar. You are always on trial, always explaining, always trying to restore peace that you did not break. And for many women over 35, this is where the grief gets sharp, because you realize you have been trained to mistake intensity for love. You were taught that love is something you earn by managing someone else's emotional weather. So you stay in the loop. You answer fast, you soothe, you apologize. You negotiate your own needs into something smaller, hoping the storm will pass. But maturity is the moment you stop dancing for calm. It is the moment you stop letting another person's panic set the pace of your life. Here is what that looks like in real time. The phone buzzes with urgency. Your heart does that old jump, the instinct to fix, to smooth, to save, and then you remember the truth from the last section. Your energy is not a public utility. So you use the pause protocol, simple and steady. I need time to think. I'll respond tomorrow. Not to punish them. To protect your clarity. To give your nervous system a chance to settle so you can hear yourself again. Then you run the 3-question filter before you re-enter the conversation. What is the real request? Are they asking for repair, or are they asking for relief from their discomfort? What changes after we talk? Is there a plan, a boundary, a responsibility, or do you just feel wrung out and nothing improves? Is this a repair or repeat? Is this the same fight in a new costume? And if the pressure rises, you hold one line like a shield that does not bruise anyone. I care, but I won't be pressured. It is calm, it is respectful, it is firm. And it often reveals the truth faster than any argument ever could, because the moment you stop feeding emotional theater, the stage lights go out. Some people will soften and become real. They will speak plainly, apologize, and repair. But others will escalate, then pivot, then punish. They will accuse you of being cold for doing what is actually healthy, refusing to be yanked by the nervous system of someone who will not regulate themselves. And when your calm cannot be controlled, the strategy often becomes quieter. They stop exploding. They start shrinking you. Some harm does not come as a punch. It comes as a slow drip that teaches you to doubt your own thirst. This is the third painful thing spiritually mature women stop tolerating: systematic devaluation and disrespect. It is the most dangerous kind because it looks small, almost polite, almost deniable. A dismissive joke that lands like a pin, a subtle insult disguised as concern, the kind of comment that makes you laugh on the outside while something in you quietly folds inward. You're so sensitive. Are you sure that's what happened? I'm just being honest. Don't take it personally. Each phrase is tiny, but together they build a room where you cannot breathe. You see it in relationships where your wins are treated like inconveniences. You share good news, a promotion, a milestone, a personal breakthrough, and the response is a shrug, a change of subject, or a backhanded compliment. Must be nice. Well, don't get too confident. You're lucky they like you. You start noticing how quickly the light is redirected away from you, like your joy must be dimmed so someone else can stay comfortable. At first, you try to be generous about it. You tell yourself that not everyone knows how to celebrate. You keep showing up with kindness, but the pattern repeats, and repetition is how your nervous system learns what is safe. You see it in families where respect is conditional. At a gathering, someone makes a cutting remark about your choices, your appearance, your boundaries, your parenting, your work, then smiles as if it were humor. If you respond, they act shocked. I can't joke with you anymore. You become the problem in noticing the disrespect. Or you are interrupted so often that you begin to speak in shorter sentences, testing whether your voice will be allowed to exist. You stop telling certain stories because you can already predict the eye roll, the sigh, the subtle correction that makes you feel childish for having a feeling. You see it at work when your competence is expected, but your humanity is treated as too much. You solve problems, smooth tensions, carry projects, and still someone frames you as difficult the moment you advocate for yourself. You watch how the same boundary in a man is called leadership, and in you, it is called attitude. You start editing your emails. You soften your language until it barely resembles what you mean. You rehearse sentences in your head before meetings, not to be clear, but to be safe. And over time, the real cost shows up in a quiet place. You begin editing yourself before you even open your mouth. You second-guess your instincts. You apologize for the questions. You preface opinions with, "Maybe I'm wrong," even when you are not. This is the emotional peak most women miss because it does not look dramatic. It looks normal. Jung would say the psyche adapts to stay connected by burying parts of the self that draw punishment. But spiritual maturity is when you stop calling this being easy and start naming it accurately. Erosion. Not one big betrayal, but a steady wearing down of your worth. And once you can name erosion, you can stop participating in it. Respect audit, 3 minutes. Write 3 recent moments you felt minimized. Keep them specific. What was said? What happened in your body? What you did next? Here is a visceral example of what specific looks like. At dinner, someone says with a smile, "Wow, you're really getting intense lately." Your chest tightens, your stomach drops. In the past, you would laugh it off, then replay it for hours. Now you set the boundary in real time, calm and clean. I'm not available for comments that dismiss me. If it happens again, I'm going to step away. Then you actually step away, to the bathroom, outside, to your car, anywhere your nervous system can feel your protection. Then apply the evidence rule. Ignore promises, track repeated behavior. Someone can say, "I didn't mean it," 100 times. Your nervous system listens to what repeats. And if you need one steady line to hold, keep this. "If you minimize me, I won't stay in this conversation." Not as a threat, as a truth. A mature woman does not argue her humanity into existence. She exits the pattern that erases her. Because here's the part that hurts the most. When you stop tolerating disrespect, people often do not reflect. They project. A boundary rarely gets punished because it is wrong. It gets punished because it works. This is what happens after you stop tolerating slow disrespect and energy leaks. The environment that benefited from your old self starts pushing back, not always with rage, but with labels. You've changed. You're cold now. You're selfish. You're dramatic. You used to be so easy to talk to. In a woman's season of clarity, after years of smoothing tension and making herself smaller to keep the peace, that backlash can feel disorienting because you did not become cruel. You became clean. And clean boundaries feel like rejection to people who were living off your constant flexibility. Jung would call this shadow projection. When someone feels discomfort, guilt, or insecurity, they would rather place it onto you than face it in themselves. If your boundary forces them to feel the consequences of their behavior, they will try to make you the problem. They will rewrite the story so they can stay innocent. Your no becomes your attitude. Your need for respect becomes your ego. Your desire for peace becomes your distance. And the old version of you, the peacekeeper, the explainer, the fixer, feels an ancient urge to defend yourself, to prove you are good, to soften the room back into comfort. This is the painful edge of maturity. You feel the heat rise in your chest, your throat tightens, your mind starts rehearsing a speech at lightning speed. Explain it better, say it nicer, add context, add proof. You can almost feel your fingers reaching for the familiar weapon of a long paragraph. Not because you are weak, but because you were trained to believe that if you can just be understood, you will be safe. Yet you are not dealing with a misunderstanding. You are dealing with resistance to reality. You see it in everyday scenes that look ordinary, but carry a sharp edge. A family member pushes past your limit, and when you calmly say, "I'm not discussing that," they smile and say, "Relax, I'm just worried about you," as if your boundary is irrational. A friend texts you 3 times in a row, then writes, "Wow, okay," when you do not reply within minutes. A partner hears you say, "I need time," and suddenly you are accused of shutting down. Even at work, you can feel it. You stop taking the extra load, and someone hints that you are not a team player. You advocate for your schedule, and the word difficult drifts into the air like a warning. This is where a woman who has outgrown people-pleasing stops arguing with projections, not because she does not care, but because she recognizes the trap. If you debate the label, you get pulled into the old role again. You become the emotional manager, trying to convince people you deserve basic decency. So instead of defending, you hold the line with calm truth. Use this two-line boundary when the pushback starts. This doesn't work for me. If it continues, I will step back. It does not attack. It does not lecture. It simply states the standard and the consequence. Then you follow through, because a boundary is not a speech, it is a decision. And when the room heats up, have an exit line ready. I'm going to go now. We can talk when it's calmer. You leave the argument before it becomes a trial. You remove your energy from the tug of war. You let their discomfort sit where it belongs. Later, when you are alone and your heart is steady again, run the repair or release checklist. Do they take responsibility? Do they change behavior? Do I have to shrink to stay? Because the truth is, you were never losing love. You were losing what depended on your lack of boundaries. Peace becomes your final standard the moment you realize maturity is not a personality shift. It is a reality shift. Once you have seen the pattern, you cannot unsee it. You can no longer pretend that exhaustion is normal, that drama is passion, or that slow disrespect is just how they are. Your nervous system will not let you go back because it finally understands the cost of returning. This is what Jung meant by individuation becoming lived experience. Not a theory, but a new inner authority. The deeper you individuate, the more your life reorganizes itself around what is real, what is respectful, and what your soul can actually live with. You stop bargaining with your own intuition. You stop calling self-betrayal being mature. You stop offering your peace as the price of admission into relationships that only feel safe when you shrink. And here is the quiet proof you are changing. You begin to choose the kind of life that does not require recovery. Your home starts to feel like a sanctuary instead of a staging ground for other people's moods. Your time becomes protected, not because you are selfish, but because you are finally accurate about your limits. Your love becomes earned, not demanded. Peace is no longer something you hope to find after you fix everyone else. It becomes the foundation you build from. Make it practical in 3 minutes. Write your 3 non-negotiables. Keep them simple and uncompromising. Respect, truth, peace. Then write 1 sentence and read it aloud like a vow. I will not trade my nervous system for belonging. Now, tell me in the comments, which one did you tolerate the longest? The energy drain, the drama loop, or the slow disrespect?
If this touched something sacred inside you, don't let it fade into silence. Like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your presence here is not just support, it's resonance. And if you feel moved to give back, your donation becomes a quiet but powerful gesture that helps keep this light alive for others still walking in the dark.